All right, welcome everyone to this Node Express and MongoDB session. What we're going to do is to go from the beginning and to show you what exactly Node is and how to begin. Over this series of sessions, I have no idea how many sessions we're going to do for this workshop series yet, because Node Express and MongoDB is a huge topic. So what we might do is to begin by going on a simpler way, like creating a simple website kind of a thing or simple platform. Then from there on, we can break it into different more specific workshops on, say, Express or MongoDB or something like that. All right, that's the current way I'm thinking. So for anyone who is new, let me share my screen. All right, for anyone who is new to this whole thing, what you want to do is to go to node.js, nodejs.org, okay, and download the package for most users. That's the LTS one. So once you downloaded it, you will be able to install it. I already installed it on my computer, so I'm not going to do this. So once you have installed it, what you are going to do is you can go to your terminal. Let me know if this is big enough. Let's make text size bigger. All right. And did anybody lose audio? Like, can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right, just a moment. So if you open your terminal after installing Node, what you'll be able to do is you have a Node command. All right, if you do Node-V, you should have a version number, whatever version it is. You can see that my current Node version number is actually lesser than the LTS one, I think. All right, the LTS one is 18. The one on my computer right now is 16. All right, good time for a lesson. All right. So one of the things that Node comes with is a package manager called npm. Right. So the package manager npm, you can also do a -v to see the version number. And in npm, to update Node, the easiest way I noticed is to use a package called n.
Hey, Zal, sorry to interrupt, but the only thing I see is
irreparable damage. மீண்டும் ஈடு செய்ய முடியாத இழப்பு.
Yeah, okay. The only thing you see is
really nice oil color.
really nice. What?
It looks like oil paint, but I don't see.
Oh,
I don't see what you're doing.
Oh, damn.
Oh, it's really beautiful.
Oh, I showed the wrong I showed the wrong desktop.
There we are.
All right, let me start.
Oh, I like it though. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's nice. So let me start from the beginning. When you go to nodejs.org, you should be able to get the LTS version of Node. You don't have to get the current one. Usually, if you get the current one, there's going to be breaking changes here and there. So I don't recommend getting the current one unless you like to live on the edge. Now, once you get this, you should be able to do a Node-V. Let's make this bigger. All right, this command Node will show up, will be available on your terminal. So Node-V will give you a version number, and at the same time, Node will install a package called npm. All right, again, you can do the -v to get a version number. The -v kind of thing is like, it stands for -- version usually. for most command line tools. So that's like a standard way of checking whether the tool is installed or not, and what version it is, and whether you need to update. Well, you can see from here that my thing is, my version is at 16, while the LTS is at 18. So it's a good time to update if I want to, but if I don't want to, it's also fine. You don't have to be on the latest version of Node every single time, but it's good to update every now and then. Since we're having this, it's a session right now, it's a good time to update Node and show you how to update Node. Now, depending on the way, depending on your operating system, like Mac or Windows or whatever, the easiest way to update Node depends on how you install it, right? So over the last few years, I've learned about many ways to update Node, like through Homebrew, through NVM, and lots of other things. But there was a point in time where Node actually made it easy to update itself. And in NPM, there is a package called N. So you go to npm.js.com, search for the package N, just the letter N, error loading page. Let's just see. All right, let's do this. So this will allow you to interactively manage Node sessions, which is a lot easier for you to update or downgrade Node, no matter what your operating system is. So in this case, let's say, for example, I need to move this zoom thing away. Right. Okay. All right, where was I? Yeah. So in this case, you can install N globally on your computer with the G flag, which stands for global. G for global. Like that. Okay. Install N. That will install N on your computer, and then you can do N latest. That will install the latest version of Node, which is not the LTS one. That's probably what you do not want. And what you can do is let's just see. N LTS, that will give you the latest version. All right, permission denied, permission denied. So in Node, there is a couple of, one of the problems if you install Node in a different way, which I did, I think I installed it with Homebrew, is that sometimes you get this permission denied error. All right, so what we have to do is just do if you ever get a permission denied error with Node, it's really a permissions issue. So what you do is a sudo chown who am I thing, okay? Node, and if we do a quick Google, like let's just sort it out. Oh, I might have to update my npm first. Nah, it's this one. So usually what you do is you can copy the commands over here that other people have mentioned. And this one. Then you do the MLTS again. That will be done. That will be okay. See? A lot easier this way. And then you can change your Node version as you want to. So let's go back to N. Can't remember the. You can use well, what was it? Oh yeah, the sudo mdr sudo chon thing is actually inside the docs. I just went too fast. So if you want to select a specific version, you can just type N, and then it will give you a version to choose. These are the versions that are already installed on your computer. And if you want to press Q, you can quit it. So if I want to move back down into node 18, like what I did before, there we go. Done. So that's moving up and down like node versions. It'll be a lot easier with N as compared to other methods. Give me a moment. All right, so that was regarding the installation of Node.js on your computer. Any questions at this point before we begin the next one? Let me know inside the chat. Cool. All right, so let's move on. Oh, let's move on. Okay, what we're gonna do is to create a project, because with all node stuff, we have to create a project. We have to run it within a project. So what I just did over here, like I dragged this into my terminal, and my terminal is called item on Mac. This is a very easy way to navigate file systems inside a MacBook. So just FYI what I'm doing over here. Now in this project, if I do open dot inside the terminal, I can pull it up inside my Finder. Okay, but you don't have to do it if you want to. So this is just a shortcut way if you want to ever open the file system. And if I drag this into VS Code, I can open up that project in Visual Studio Code. All right, another shortcut of how I open projects here and there. In Node, what's actually very simple is that it is just what Node does is actually running a file on your computer, as to all servers, as to all backend programming languages. So it's extremely simple. If you do a console.log, hello world, and let's create a file first, right? Let's call this file server.js. So creating a file here. We do console.log hello world. If you go back to the terminal, let's park it side by side. Right. And you run the command node, and the file name, you should get what you actually put in. So it runs JavaScript once. Basically, like front-end JavaScript, it runs it once when you include it inside the HTML. Right, so that's the easy way of thinking about it. Now, when it comes to backend projects, one of the things that you always do is that you will write code, and then you will have to node server.js and node server.js and node server.js and node server.js again and again and again and again and again. So it's the easier way to handle that is to use a package called nodemon. So what we do is first initialize the projects with npm init, because all backend projects have a lot of packages. It is a lot easier to use npm to manage our dependencies, so we can upgrade or downgrade their versions as we need to. Right? So when you press npm init, there is going to be a series of questions. This series of questions is only applicable and useful if you are creating a package to share it with others. Otherwise, you can just enter through everything, and what you'd see is that npm will create a thing called package.json. and it will insert whatever that has inserted inside here. And what you do is you do npm install, I for install, nodemon, which is the tool that we're going to use to restart the server many times, and -d for a dev dependency flag. Dev dependency flag meaning it's something that we are not going to put into the server for production. So the users do not need to know about them because we don't need to use it on the production server. Since we're only using it when we're developing, that's the idea. All right, so install that, and then that goes into package.json automatically. Now, whenever we do like npx nodemon server.js, it will run the thing, and then you can write your stuff. After finishing it, it will exit and wait for changes before restart. So if you restart this, it will run the file again. So nodemon is very useful because you would usually keep nodemon running. It's pretty much the same idea and concept where if you put it into a server, you need to keep the server running and not just run it once. So when you go into a server, we have other tools for that. So just FYI, when we go into the server deployment side of things.
I have to hear. Do you want me to put on my earphones?
What?
Well, watch something. If it's not going to bother you, it's fine.
All right, that's not really related to what we're talking about today. Today is a free session, by the way, so we do have other people joining us from other places.
Sal, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I guess
because just a moment. Let me finish that sentence.
Okay, sure.
All right. So today is a free session, so we do have other people joining us from other places. But for the next session onwards, it's going to be held for Dojo members only. So Dojo is basically my community and the place I do training, and we're gonna do like one training every week on a very specific topic. And this series that we're going to go into is on Node, Express, and MongoDB, like I mentioned earlier. And perhaps the next series I'm going to go into is design for developers, which seems to be something people want. All right, so if you're interested, just go to magical-school, like .com/dojo, and you'll find out more about this community. Okay, I'll leave it at that. And yeah, back to your question, Adam. Sorry, Don.
It's not a big deal. Just difference between NPM and NPX.
All right, cool. NPX is something that is kind of new. So let me explain a little bit. So if you have not installed, NPM is the general package manager of things. NPX is the executionary thing. So you use NPX to execute binaries. Binaries meaning the stuff that you downloaded, the CLI stuff. Okay, so because if we want to do nodemon server.js, we can't do nodemon server.js. We can do it now on my computer because I've installed nodemon globally, since I'm too lazy to install it in every project. Especially for tiny projects, we don't really need it. That's why I install it globally. But we can't do that for normally. So what we need to do is actually something a lot more complex, like /node modules, nodemon, and then I think bin nodemon.js. See that? That's the original. If you actually want to use nodemon, you have to type that statement down. Now NPX lets you do the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing about NPX is if the package is not installed, it will install it, run it once, and then remove it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so this is like it's very good executionary stuff. Now, given that we don't actually need to write NPX all the time, it's a lot easier to edit the script here. Okay, so if we edit the script here, we can use npm run and key here to run any file. So what we're going to do is server, and then we can do npm run node server.js. Okay, and when you do this, you can do npm run server, and that runs. Oh, node mon in this case, not node. All right, and it runs, and we don't have to worry about remembering whether we use nodemon or any other tool that we are using at the moment. Just nobody has to remember. If you pass it over to someone else, this package.json will have everything they need to install it onto their computer and run the file. So that's why we need a package manager. Okay, cool. Any questions regarding this before we move on? All right, awesome. Let's see. Now, the next thing to do is we need to run a server. Node actually gives us something called the HTTP module to run the server, but that's slightly more on the complicated side. Most people would run a server, like I'm using the word server a little bit loosely right now, but server just generally means that anything is on your file and then you run, right? The way I'm using a server is because when you go onto a website, say npm.js, what you do is the browser will go to this link. The link, when the browser goes to this link, there's a connection to their server, and the server tells the browser what to render. Then the browser renders whatever that is. So what this means is that the server needs to have a connection that is open for everyone to come in. That sounds so wrong, but okay. The server needs a connection, needs to have an open connection for everyone to be able to connect to it. And the easiest way to do this is to use a framework like Express.js. So Express.js is probably the most popular framework. There are others like Fastify and Koa and stuff like that. So we can get started by installing Express onto this project. But as you install Express, one of the things to note is that we're going to install the Express 5.x, which is in beta for forever. All right, it's actually quite stable already. I've been using it in production apps all the time. The reason why we're going to use the 5.x 5.0 is because Express actually moved from so to this one requires a little bit more explanation. So when it comes to all projects in Node, right? If you want to import or install a package, use a package in your computer, you need to actually specify how you want to import them. In the past, it is called common.js. So if, let's say, I want to use a Node file system package, I can do const fs equals to require fs. So Node already has a lot of these things built into them. So if you go to Node.js and you go into the docs, there is lots of stuff like the HTTP package, the file system package, and all that stuff. There's a lot of information. We will go through them as we need to. So the whole idea right now is to show you what you have to pay attention to. So if you console log JS, you can see that there is a lot of stuff. It works. Now, this require thing over here is called common.js. Okay, common.js. This is the sort of like the original way that Node.js, it comes with Node.js originally. And over the years, right now we have a new standard called ESM or ECMA script modules. ECMA script is basically JavaScript. It's a different name for JavaScript. All right, so you can think of it as JavaScript modules. It is standardized for both browsers and in Node. So the better way to import modules going forward or import packages going forward is with ESM. Okay, there are many ways to load the ESM thing up, but before that, so packages written with ESM is not compatible with CJS. So if you wrote a package in ESM or someone else wrote it, you cannot use it in a CommonJS project. It's not compatible. It's not backwards compatible. But a CommonJS file, CommonJS package can be used in ESM. Okay? So because of that, and because many people have gone on to write ESM only packages, the whole industry has shifted over to ESM. All right. So one of the things that you want to do is to start a ESM project with all your projects that you begin. And to do that, we go to server package.json, and we need to add a module. I think type is module. Right? This will allow us to use ESM. And once we save this, you see that no one has an error because require is not defined in the ES module scope. So there's no require function. What we do as we import files in the ESM format is import fs from. It's pretty much the same as, it's pretty much the same. We just change the word const import from require, that kind of thing. And then that's how you have this. Okay, so this is important for installing packages. Now, the reason why we're going to use Express 5.0 is because in Node, whenever you deal with connections, because the connection has to be open, you have to write a lot of asynchronous JavaScript. And in the past, Node has a callback. Express handles async.js with callbacks. And Express 5 brings in promises and async await. So you can write the newer syntaxes without having to trying to wrestle with the callback way of writing things by installing more packages and making the thing more complex. So that's why Express 5.0 is what you want to install. Okay, 5.0 beta. I think installing this. Install Express 5. Right. There we have it. That's the guide to moving to Express 5. The thing to do is install 5.0 beta.1 save. This is the function to use to do this. Now you pay attention that we're using the -- save flag, which is pretty much the same as -s if you like shortcuts. If you go to package.json, you'll see that it's written under dependencies. That's because if you're in an actual project, like if you're serving it in production, Express needs to be there in order to serve the connection, in order to tell someone who is coming in which file to go to or which thing to load, so you can load that thing. That's what Express is for. So dependencies. And then now you can npm run server. And then what we'll do is we import Express from Express. Now you can log Express. Like this is one of the things I like to do. Just try and figure out what's inside in each and every package, so you have an idea about what's there. It's also good for you to see that it's working. Otherwise, you'll be like trying to blindly follow the docs without having an idea of things. Now, this can be complex, but you can just see that, oh, there's a request, there's a application, there's whatever. Okay. And that this is actually a function. So it makes sense, like people normally say app equals to Express. All right, you've seen that before. Yeah, that's why, because Express exports a function. That's why you have to use a function. Right, cool. And then you can log the app for fun to see what's there. And that's more stuff. Okay, that's one. More stuff. But we're not going to go into all of these things. Too complicated if we go there. But the general idea is that you can use app.listen and specify a port number. And once you specify a port number, you can do like, console log server is running on port 3000. And what we do is we can now go to port 3K. Let's just run this up. 3000, and then it will say cannot get slash. This is good because we're actually running our server. Our server does not have anything that shows a route on the index page. So if you want to do something on the index page, say we do like app.get. Okay. And rest send hello world. So if you do this, you can see hello world on site on the main page itself. Now, this is a very simple way of sending things over because, well, first of all, we're just sending like HTML here. So if we want to do like H1, that should work. See? All right, cool. But most of the time we don't write the full HTML over here. So there are two ways to go about doing it. There are many ways to go about doing it as well. We're going to discuss a little bit on that. Okay. And yep, where are we? Hit back to here. So this thing that we just wrote over here is called a route. For short, we generally say it's a route, but the route is actually this part that I'm highlighting. So if we do like say app.get slash testing, for example, again, we'll do this. If you go into the page and go slash testing, you will get this file. So what Express does, it allows you to write the paths or the routes. Like over here in the URL, we call it a path. Over here in Express, we call it a route. It's the same thing, different definitions of things, that's all. Okay, so you can write a route and a function to handle the route. So the function to handle a route is called a route handler. This is the same idea as a event listener, where, you know, like click, and then you have a function. You know, pretty much the same concept. In this case, then this is like the route or the event, and then the event handler. Same thing, like just callbacks. All right. Right, people call it different way, different things to have a more specific way of naming things. Now, the good thing about Express is that you can use async over here, which you will find out in future sessions why this is important. And then it will continue to work. So if we refresh, it's going to work. The reason we use async is because if we want to connect to a database, it can connect, because database connections are also another opening of a port, and you have to go in there and come back, and that's asynchronous by itself. Okay, so that's a thing to play with. All right, what else?
Quick question
Yes.
about databases. When you get into this later, probably not tonight, you're going to do Mongoose or something like that as opposed to just pure MongoDB?
I'm going to do Mongoose because like pure MongoDB is going to be hard to wrap it around most of the time.
Somehow I got scared.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
I'm also going to show you, I might also show you how to like test the database and all that stuff, but maybe they'll be more advanced. So let's see if we cover it this time, or maybe we cover it next time. But let's get the basic stuff over and done with for now. All right, so over here, what you're gonna do is if you want to look up an index.html page, okay, so there are two ways inside Express, or rather there are two major ways to use Express. Let me just jot that down as a note over here so you can see. Okay, the first way is to use it as a server. And the second way is use it as an API. Actually, both are servers, but an API server. Okay, fine. That will make things a little bit more understandable. What I mean by use it as a server is that you can do exactly what we're doing over here. So there's a send a file over and then call it a date. And if you use it as an API server, then what it means that all connections to this project has to go through the links, but we don't send the HTML directly back, but we send data over. And then what data the front end wants to use is up to them. Now I'm going to show you an example to do both at the same time, so that will make more sense. The first thing to do is to send an index.html file over. We can use something called send file. Okay. When we do send file, we need to send a path. This is where it gets a little bit more complex. I have to check my notes. So give me a moment. Like, I don't remember every single thing. It is like a miracle almost that I'm remembering all of these things that I'm sharing with you right now without having to check most documentations. Okay. So let me get that. So because like the way this is complicated, because in the past we can just do dir name plus index.html. Okay, dir name is the directory name. In the past we can do that with CommonJS, but we switch over to ESM. Dir name is not available anymore. So you can see that. All right. If you consult dir name is not defined in ES module scope. So that's like, oh, damn it, kind of a thing. So I'm just going to bring out some of my other projects and get the dir name thing over and done with. I just wrote about that recently, so there's a little bit more. Where is it? Not here. There we go. Now this looks complex, all right? Import file URL to path from URL, import path to path, and then you can have dir name equals to path.dir name file path to URL, import meta URL. It's lots of stuff. That's why I say this is complex. The basic idea is that import.meta.url. Take it one step at a time. Import.meta.url gives you the entire, the absolute URL to the file, which we need to use for send file. Okay, but the problem is we do not want the entire protocol, because like file.dot and all that stuff is a file system protocol. We only need a path to it. So we need something like the part that starts from /users all the way to the folder, but without the file name. We can get file path to URL, file URL to path, and then we will get this. So we remove the file // with this function called file URL to path, which converts the file protocol to the path. path meaning, like this is the entire thing. And then usually what we do is https:// whatever. We are removing this part, and the rest can be a path to the stuff. Now it might sound a little bit complex, but I'm giving you like the actual grainy details of what's going on. So when you see something like this, you don't get scared next time around. All right. Then the next thing is we need to remove server.js, because what we want is just the whatever that comes before. And in Node, there is this function called dir_name, which stands for directory name from the path module, which is why when we combine everything together, right, you get /user/ all the way to the folder, the current directory. And with that, we can serve out the index.html file, assuming that we have the index.html file over in our current directory. I'm just going to do like a whoops, very simple one. And then we'll say this is from a HTML file. Yay! So when we refresh this, oh wait, we're on the testing page. So let's go back. Damn, the name is not defined. Then I just remove, yes, I remove all of that. And then we go, this is from a HTML file. All right, get that? Cool. And the whole ESN thing makes this whole thing a lot more complex. But it's basically the same thing. dir_name, get the directory name, add the path to it. So if you combine these two things together, all right, let's just do a log for this. That means we are pointing, see this one over here? We're saying that, all right, please give the whatever that just came over to us this file. And this file can be found at /users/wk desktop project index.html file, which is the file over here. Make sense? Am I losing anyone? Right, give me a thumbs up if it's okay, like in the chat, or like.
I mean, I get it. But why get rid of underscore directory name? Like, it seems like we're going backwards.
Who knows?
I mean, maybe that's not an appropriate question for this morning, tonight, but
who knows? Like, I've been struggling with this when I started like ESM, so. And whatever that I just shared with you is whatever I figure out from Googling and stuff. Basic, good news is I actually have this inside my github.com. Let's go to GitHub. Inside my JavaScript repository, where I just throw lots of stuff inside there to help me code. And under Node, there is dir_name. So you can install this, and then basically you just have to pass in import meta URL to this thing, and then we're done. So like if you install it, it's gonna look like this. No, if you install that I'm not gonna install it, but if you install it, it's gonna look like this. /node/dir_name.js, and then you can get the dir_name like this. So you don't have to mess around with path and URL and whatever whenever you need dir_name. Well, the good news is we don't actually need dir_name much. Okay, that's the good news. Okay, we don't actually need it. We just need it to explain what the hell is going on when someone does Express for the first time, or if you have to mess around with the file system. All right. Thankfully, not much. So this is something to know, but it's not something you have to remember. Okay, cool. So here we go. There's a HTML file that we served up right now. Then now inside this HTML file, we can do like serve up a script.json, for example. We can write an inline script. All right, this will work. If you go inside here, console log, that will work because it's inline. Well, if you want to serve assets with Express, what you need to do is you have to use a middleware. And this middleware is app.use express static, and then let's say public. So what middlewares are, okay, is like you can, have you seen in like Facebook or YouTube videos where there's this fruit sorting machines where you go like, where the fruit comes and then depending on the size, it will just get bounced off to different buckets. Have you seen something like that? All right, cool. So like a middleware structure basically does the same thing. Okay, and if we do app.use without the route here, without the path, we're saying everything should go through this middleware. So everything will go through this function and then come back to the main pipe of things. And then if it's slash, you go like go to the slash one. If it's the other one, you to testing and all that stuff. So like this is what middlewares are. So it's basically anything that before the route handler. So you can even put a middleware here as well, and that's also called a middleware. Okay, but that's more advanced. We're going to get to that as we go along. So app.use express static public will give you a public folder. Now, one of the more weird stuff that I noticed is that you can't do like express static slash. I tried it. I don't think it works from my memory. The other thing I noticed is you can't do it like express static node modules. Like Express prevents you from doing this. I was playing around and trying to see if I could import files from node modules into the browser directly without using since we have like ESM in the browser, why can't we import directly to node modules from node modules? And it's possible. Here's the thing, it's possible. Just not possible with Express, because Express denies that possibility. They do not serve up node modules for security reasons or something. I do not know, but that's why you can't do it. But then again, this is not a topic we're talking about today. So FYI, if you're ever interested in looking at that. So let's say we have a file called main.js inside the public folder, and we do like, yay, hello from main.js. All right, in index.html, we can import this script with the script src thing. And pay attention here. Normally, when we start writing, we probably write main.js like this. It will not work. So if you do that, oh wait, actually it works this time around because, well, it's in the public domain. It's in public. Most of the time when you serve up assets, you should do a slash. You have to do a slash. Right? Why? Because if you do a slash, it indicates that this is an absolute URL. An absolute URL from the path. And what Express does is with express.static public is that it exposes the public folder, this public folder, as slash. So slash will match anything in the public folder. So if you have a styles.css, you can actually do that as well and link to /css. And in styles.css, you can go like body background color red. There we go. All right, this is important, very important, because when you have, if you use a file system kind of a way of doing things, it is going to be very messy if you don't have the absolute URL. So always have the absolute URLs when you are sending stuff over in the index.html files. Now I just mentioned that I'm going to show you how to do it with what's that called? With API. So say we are going to fetch something from our main.js file. Okay, let's go back to main. We're going to do a fetch request to our local whatever route. Let's just give a route API route and then pause it there. Okay, and are you familiar with async.js? Okay, cool. If not, then we have to explain a little bit more. But there's a series I've done on asynchronous JavaScript. There's a course on async JavaScript that I have that will give you a lot more details. But let's just do it this way first. All right, I'm gonna do this. You can see that right now there's I'm gonna fetch API. The error is that localhost/API is not found. That is because we have not written the route for it yet. So let's just get the route for it, right? App.get/API. And then again, we do this. We haven't really used the async part yet, so like let's just do it another day. To send stuff back, you do rest.json. So in all route handlers, there is two things. One is request and one is response. We just use REQ and RES for short. So rest.json, meaning we send JSON data back to wherever it is. Rest.send means we send the, in this case, it seems like we're sending the HTML, but to be more accurate, we're sending XML back. XML is basically a superset of HTML where all tags go. So you can like write random rubbish tags and it will be it can be loaded. So fun fact, Ajax is actually asynchronous JavaScript and XML. That was where it came from. But since we no longer use XML, it's no longer accurate to call it Ajax. But people still call it Ajax because I think they never study their history. So okay. So where am I?
Oh,
All right. So if we have this now we refresh, we will send the message back over to the browser. So this way of writing things is the server side way of writing things, and this way of writing things is the API server. Now, of course, if you're actually building a server, we shouldn't do like index.html because that is no different from a static site. If you need Express for a server, what we usually do is we use a template engine and we render stuff. Now that's gonna be for the next session because it's gonna be a little bit more complex. Okay. So wow, there's a lot of things I can teach you. Way too much. Now let's go into the API side of things first, because that's what people are doing recently. That's more at least that's what I'm doing recently. Many people still use Node for doing a normal server, and that's fine. I'm going to show you how to do both. All right. So when it comes to the API and request and response, right? If we send something over from the API, so let's say we do a post request method, this post, and then we send some data over. Body is JSON.stringify message hello world. So if we do this over, we can actually get this information on our server. Right? How we do this is we do look at request.body. And then now let's refresh this. Oh, oops, syntax error. Where's the syntax error? Comma. Okay, done. And refresh. Okay, you get another error because post HTTP local whatever is not found. That's because we changed the method, the HTTP request method. We explicitly said we're going to listen to a GET request. but not a post request. So if you change this to post and do this again, this will work. All right. And to show you what goes on, if you go to the terminal, you'll see undefined. Oh, damn. That's because we need an extra middleware to get JSON files. Express.json is required. And then if you do this again, you'll get, why is it undefined again? Damn it. Did I mess up my fetch syntax? Because it's been a while since I did fetch. Let's see. Now I have to try and figure out what's wrong. Damn it. All right, give me a moment.
So tell us what you're looking at and how you're parsing.
Parsing what? This error?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to recall what I've done in previous projects right now. I'll be honest, I have no idea why this is showing up. But if this shows up normally, I would probably just do a Google. But for some reason, I have been, I guess, I've been like switching the way I manage my projects recently. So all over the place right now. I have an API one, yeah. So let's do that. I'm just wondering if I butchered the whole Express JSON thing. No, it's correct. All right, anyway, let's just do this. I'll paste this in. The URL encoded part is for forms. So if you ever set a form over, that should work. Oh, why is it undefined? Damn it. Should do it. Network. API. Let's see what they are sent. All right. Let's stop this. I give up. I give up trying to figure this thing out. Like, it's not worth the brain power right now. So the reason why I say I'm not familiar with fetch anymore is because I use a package called ZLFetch, which is a wrapper I wrote around fetch that makes it easier to use. Okay. And with frontend JS, you can install it by grabbing it from the CDN. So let's just get that. As I don't remember this anymore. It should work. I have no idea why. I don't want to have to stringify this. I don't need this. Well, to do, like, if you want to use import statements, you have to do like type equals to module in your script. All right, cool. So that's all what we have. Now, again, let's see what happens. All right, rest.body, request.body.
Yeah.
Let's do this again. There we go. There it is. So apparently I butchered the fetch syntax because I really can't remember it off the top of my head. This is why writing courses is a little bit hard, because you have to remember in the past what you have done and then like fix it. So anyway, where were we? You can send stuff through the body. Like, I'm just going to use this one. The idea is similar. You send JSON data over to the backend, And in the backend, you can get the data in the body. And then if we do that, we can say get a message. And let's just do like send the entire body back. This is just for fun, all right? And then you can see that the body is message hello world. So I'm adding a few more things here inside ZL-Fetch to get a better sense of things, because you can see the status directly, you can see the status tags, you can get the headers, which normally it's kind of hidden away by fetch, and then you can get the message. You can also optionally run a, say, let's just do this for you to see. Response, error, and debug. So if you return, so if you say debug is true, I think that's debug. I can't remember at this point. Okay, and then you log the debug, you actually know what exactly you're sending over to the backend. So this is the request I sent. I send the slash URL, slash API. That's the URL I sent to. I sent a post message. The headers is application JSON, and I'm sending this JSON file data. In Fetch, you don't get that. In Axios, you don't get that, as far as I remember. If you do an error, return error, true, then any error goes into here instead of having to use a catch block, but usually it goes through a catch block. So it's very useful when you're writing tests, like just to check what's going on and all that stuff. All right, so that's a little bit of a teaser to ZL-Fetch if you are interested in looking into it. Probably should name it something other than ZL-Fetch, but well, who cares at this point? Okay, let's get back to what we have on hand. And well, 1 hour has passed, and I pretty much gave you the idea about Node and how to use it as a normal server and how to use it as an Express server and everything you need to be able to manage your Node projects like npm, upgrade, install, and all that stuff. There's one more thing that you can use, because when you have many dependencies, like for example, in this real project I have here, if you go to package.json file, you'll see a whole lot of dependencies. Okay, the question is, how do you manage all of them? All right, so if I have an alias, I call it NCU. Fine, it's not, we just downloaded the latest things, so it's not the right stuff. Okay, it will check your registries, compare it against npm, and it will tell you what is in patch update, what is in minor update, what is in major update. So FYI, this is called SEMver, semantic versioning. Patch update means you can basically just update it and forget about it because it patches bugs. All right, it's backwards compatible, so you are fine. Your code will not break. Minor update says new features, but these are backwards compatible as well, so you can update. There will be new stuff you are not using yet, but they will not break your site. The ones you have to be aware of when you're updating is the major updates, because they may contain API changes. So just pay attention to those with major updates when you're updating. What you can do is you just go like, use the keyboard shortcut, go through everything and use like space to select stuff and press enter and it will update for you. Okay, so like this, npm install all the stuff. Anyway, install the stuff for you and we're done. So this package is called npm check, I think. npm check. There we go. This is it. And I use npm check u as my alias because you look at this, it says the command to use npm check -u. So that will help you make it interactive. All right, that's the command. Yeah. You can. That's why you use use for interactive update, because normally if you use npm check, well, it makes it a lot harder, in my opinion. So yeah, I guess that's all I want to share for today. Did you find it useful? Like
Definitely.
most of this should be foundational topics for most people right now, but you did get a few additional pluses to your arsenal at this point. I guess that would be the best way to go about putting it. Next session onwards, we are going to go a little bit deeper. I currently have no idea what I want to teach yet. So it'll be a free-for-all, like you can tell me what you want to learn from here. Perhaps I'll talk about building an API. Perhaps I'll talk about building a server with like with a template engine. So both ways will be fine. And then after that, when the server is a little bit more mature, we can include MongoDB as our third or fourth lesson. All right, any questions at this point? James, Stephen, Carl?
Nope, just review the playback and play with getting everything installed and be ready for next week.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Sal.
Thank you.
Was the pace okay? Too fast? Or just nice?
I may join you later on in the course because this was a nice refresher, but I would come in later.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Just join whenever you can.
Okay. The other thing is I need a project. And I don't have one right now. It's hard to do things without something to apply them for. So we'll see. But it's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to do a project together. So we're going to apply it somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Do you know
once, I have no idea what I'm going to do yet, but
Okay.
I'm showing you the concepts first instead of diving straight into projects, because
Yeah,
if people
fair
dive
enough.
straight into projects. The problem is that it becomes too project focused and you lose sight of what the tool can actually do.
Right. I
So
have
we're
an
moving
idea.
along as we go along. In this project, what do we need in that project? And then we'll shift things as we go along. The reason why we're keeping it general is also because that will give you the tools to run all of your projects with. So what I'm thinking is perhaps in the next week, we can already begin doing an API server with like users, because that is usually the first layer. And for that, we will start incorporating MongoDB or Mongoose, maybe. So that can work. Yeah, sure. I can stay on for a little bit, Don. If you are interested in looking at a project, you can share it with me.
Sure.
So, yep, I guess that's it. Next session we will be doing. All right, depending on how things go. I know it sounds a little bit iffy to say depending on how things go, but it's literally what would you prefer? Do you want to be more on a normal server side where we do like Express, or Nunjucks, or Park, or that kind of thing? Or do you want to go more on an API server sort of thing? Like just a quick show of hands, vote. Which path would be more interesting to you? Either way, we'll be incorporating MongoDB and Mongoose, so that's not a problem. Either way, we are going to do testing, so that's not a problem.
So on the API side, do you normally do these, bespoke, or, like on Python, I've used tools like Fast API that have libraries that, help you generate, complicated APIs, particularly like a REST API, for example. And you're not really trying to write them all out by hand, which I understand it's important to know to get your foundation in, but I mean, in the long run.
Well, with Node, I don't think you have that kind of framework unless you want to use them, but it's not too hard, to be honest.
It didn't look that hard, yeah.
Yeah, when you know what's going on, it's not that hard. Like I can show you an example over here where we have like API,
I mean,
and
Express is already a framework.
yeah, it's already a framework, so it just kind of looks like that. You just specify whatever APIs you want to. Yeah. Oh yeah, wait, I'm not sharing my screen. So it can kind of look like this, right? And what you put inside each of the route handlers on the middlewares, you can decide on that. It gives you a lot more flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing you can do. That's what I do, because the thing about Node is that it is flexible, so there is not a lot of dogmatic approaches to it. There are, if you want to. I'm just keeping it more on a general basis right now, so it applies to most people. Well, if you want something like a API thing, like maybe a file for get, a file for post, and all that stuff, or whatever, you can think about using Astro, to be honest. Like they are getting pretty good stuff on the server side, because what you can do is you can have a file called, say, so what you can do is you don't have to specify the file path, because the file path is actually specified in the URL that you use. So that will be very similar to most frameworks out there. Maybe like the one you use in Python, but I'm not sure what that exactly is, so I can't comment on it. But I don't think Astro is ready for that yet. I might use Astro as we go along going forward, but not now. The Express is still the way to go for now. Because if you start using Astro, you have to figure out how to connect to MongoDB in a different way, and that kind of stuff. Like using a connection with Mongoose and setting up a testing API, a test framework, is something that nobody teaches you how to, but you have to go and figure out by yourself. Something I figure out, I'm going to share with you.
I mean, testing is a wonderful thing to learn, because I'm terrible at it.
It's
I'm
pretty
sure it would have saved me a year or two of my life.
Yeah, it's actually pretty simple if you know what to do. Like I spent like 2 years trying to figure that shit out. Because the whole idea is like people who write tests assume that everyone knows about testing, and they write stuff, that's basically everyone. When you know something, you assume everyone knows about it, and then you write it in a way that other people don't understand. So that's basically everyone, as far as I know. So what I'm gonna do is to help you set up the basic foundations, the testing, as we go along. So for that, I will actually recommend the API route more than the standard project route, because
as opposed to the Express router.
as in the API server. So all of your routes are APIs where you rest.json data back into the front end, or wherever you get whatever the data requires, as opposed to a server where you show them what to show up. There's two possible ways of doing it. I'm thinking about which one. Any preferences? The way I'll do things nowadays is I'll use the API route. Then I'll use a front end built with Astro or some other static site generators, because they will be a lot easier, faster. As opposed to having one project with APIs and non-APIs, and then suddenly you have to do like a asynchronous fetch to somewhere, and then suddenly like just gets messy. So that's why I recommend the API route. So we can have an API server with all of the stuff you need, and then all the fancy schmancy JavaScript stuff can be done on another project by itself. So that keeps things a lot cleaner. All right, I think we're gonna do that. That sounds like something a lot easier. I don't want to overcomplicate things. But after we move past that, I will come back and show you how to actually do a normal server with Express.
Okay, that works.
All right.
Normal server with Express and routes that aren't like the most simple in the world, I think would be very useful.
All right, cool. Let's just do it this way then. Next session, we'll do a normal server with Express. And then in the third session, we'll move to API routes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Because when it comes to testing, it doesn't make that much sense to test a normal server. Because, well, you'll be like, it has this HTML, it has that HTML, and you don't really want to test that kind of stuff.
No, it's too simple.
All right. So the stuff that you want to test is really related to your controllers, to your API stuff.
Yeah.
When to unit test, when to integrate, when to do integration testing. That's a lot clearer on the API side as opposed to a standard Express server. So I'm going to show you how to do a standard Express server. That will be for simpler sites that you can use. Then from then on, we will start moving into API route server. So that's for the second session, will be a standard Express server, third session API server. Okay, cool. In that case, I guess we're good for this today. We're good for the next two sessions. And well, it'd be nice to play around with these things. And with that, let me stop the recording. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thanks.